And welcome. It's Michigan's AutoTalk Podcast, and this is episode number 88. We remind you every episode of Michigan's AutoTalk Podcast is about celebrating the automobile, the truck, and everything automotive. We're also about supporting you, car and truck owners across the state of Michigan, birthplace of everything automotive. Where do you find our podcast? We're on the iHeartRadio app, the Spotify app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, really anywhere you listen to your podcast. And in this episode, we are going to talk a little bit about winter driving because 'tis that time of year as we are just before Christmas time. But before we do that, Al Schwinkendorf, John Puhek, co-host of Michigan's AutoTalk Podcast. Al, you put up something really cool, and I want to set this up a little bit. Everybody, if you're listening to us, you have that one car in the family, and listen to me, I'm being very serious about this, where the car was more than a car. It was really something that became a part of the family, and it was cherished. In fact, a lot of the reasons people hang on to cars are only because they kind of have a lot of sentimental value. And there was a Studebaker in the Schwinkendorf family, and you have a document up and a little post about it. It's really cool. A lot of people have interacted with it. So give us the quick overview, and we'll launch into winter driving.
Well, so like 6 to 8 years ago, my mom gave me this little book she made for Christmas, along with a little frame type shadow box deal that's got like my grandpa's UAW pin, his 40 years of service at Studebaker pin, his 20 years and all that. And it's the story of the one and only car he's ever bought brand new. And this was a guy who, she told me a few years back that in his lifetime, they never made more than $21,000 in a year. He immigrated in 1909. He ended up in South Bend. He built a house. He bought 2 corner lots next to the Studebaker golf or the Notre Dame golf course, built a house by hand in his spare time after work in a garage and all that, rented it to his cousin and family who had come over from Germany for a couple of years to pay stuff down. Then married my grandma and kicked them out and moved in. When he started in 1910, he was working in the upholstery department at Studebaker, which made they made buggies and wagons, industrial wagons and personal, buggies and stuff like that, but they didn't even have internal combustions at that point. And he was there until 1957, which was pretty much the end. So in 1947, he and grandma, you got to remember these two. It's like when the paper boy would show up to collect his $1.36 for last month's Chicago Tribune that he delivered. You had to go into the kitchen of the sugar drawer because that's where the dimes were. You had to go into the living room to get the quarters out of they were, they were depression children. They were misers and everything else. And they saved up the less than $1,600 to order his one and only brand new car. And if you go on the Facebook page, you'll see the build sheet for it. You'll see the letter that Studebaker sent him and said, yes, you're an employee, you're getting a 23% discount, but all the dealer prep and all that is your responsibility. And their warranty was pretty much like nothing. But I know that it got wide white walls, chrome trim rings, and an overdrive because Grandpa was always stingy on gas. And his wife had 13 brothers and sisters. It's a huge, we're related to all of South Bend, Indiana. Holidays were insane. And everybody said, that 47 Commander, that was Adolf's pride and joy. And it was always spotless. No matter what, it was spotless. If he had to go, Grandma played organ at church and he went to pick her up and there was slush got on the side, he'd get out, wipe down the car like driving Miss Daisy, waiting for her to come out of the church to drive her home. And so I just think it's really cool. It's a shock how cheap things were and how strange they were about warranties and stuff like that back then. And it's just part of my family. It's cool.
Yeah, I love the story, and that's up at facebook.com/Michigan's AutoTalk. And really, while we're at it, if you're listening to us and you've got a story with a family car like that, you want to post a picture and share a little bit, you can do that. We don't, make you wait to approve a post. Just throw that up, or you can, of course, message us on our Facebook page. But I love that. Okay, we are.
And if it's really good, we're going to call you and have you on the show.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
exactly.
always. That's always.
Be careful. Be careful.
Always a given. We are here in the middle of winter time, and it's really not even, all-wheel drive does a lot of things. It's not an insurance policy. It is not magic. It's not the unicorn of winter driving, and it's going to protect you magically. There are a lot of other things people don't know when it comes to winter driving, including, when do you actually engage the four-wheel drive low? Or, for instance, I've got a snow mode in my Toyota, or when you've got a low mode and things like that. So we thought we'd just take a minute to talk about that. And I know you guys see this all the time with vehicles with four-wheel drive that's broken or something stuck because someone did something, especially some of the older vehicles. They did something wrong where they didn't read the manual. They really didn't understand how the whole system worked. So let's go over that first if you've got an older vehicle.
I'm going to let John run with this with real-world experience, but if you drive a GM and it's got that auto four-wheel drive, some people think that the day after Thanksgiving, you put it in auto all-wheel drive and you keep it there until whatever Memorial Day, or they have snow on the roads and they put it in four-wheel high and drive it that way all the time. Don't do that when the roads are dry. If you had any idea what that's doing to your drivetrain, just keep it in two until you need it. And John's going to tell you that when you go buy winter tires and put them on your four-wheel drive 5,000-pound SUV, that is kind of a waste of money, but whatever. Go for it.
Okay, so as Al has already explained a little bit, if you have a four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive system and you get the fancy Bridgestone Blizzak tires, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. I know we've got...
That's a little harsh.
No, you're an idiot. We've got customers. We've got people that are actually in our own... our company.
Dude, I was thinking we'd start selling Blizzaks. Maybe we'd be billionaires and let them be idiots.
Well, and just
if you don't know how to drive with all season tires with an all-wheel drive setup, you have an issue. I have lived in Michigan all my life. I was made in Michigan, and I always had a front-wheel drive Toyota all-season tires, and I never got stuck. I learned how to drive
way better than a rear-wheel drive. You were rocking it.
Yeah, and so
that was our four-wheel drive back then.
Yeah, well, no, you learn how to drive, and then I moved out into the sticks a little bit, and then it was a two-wheel rear-wheel drive, and you learn. Okay, you keep your momentum up. This is the way you go. But no, if you have an all-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive vehicle, you don't need snow tires. The one thing I will say that I have seen multiple times this season, we have people that come in with all-wheel drive vehicles that are changing their summer tires to their snow tires, and this is parentheses because you can't even see, whatever, but the tread is less. It's a Blizzak, but it's 30 seconds versus 30 seconds on your snow tires. So
30 seconds is when you throw them away.
Exactly. It's much smaller. There's no tread left on them, but I gotta put them on there. I gotta do all that, and it's just like, do you not understand what you're doing? And
no,
I've talked to some of the customers, and a couple of them kind of gave me that good look, like, oh, yeah, I kind of messed up, didn't I? And I just look at them like, you got to understand what you're dealing with. So,
okay, so let's put it in a nutshell. If you absolutely positively think you need to have winter tires, You need to get winter wheels, and they need to have TPMS sensors in them, so we can make, because those people are the ones that I just spent $1,500 and now my TPMS light's going to be on because I didn't buy the sensor. So you need to know that. You need to know that if you plan on taking your tires on and off rims, that works good for about 2 cycles. And then the bead's so messed up just from the process of removing it and reinstalling it that they're going to leak and they're going to be a pain in the butt. And you also need to know that I don't want to say this, you need to rotate winter tires like 10 times more than you do. You can't wait for an oil change. And people go, really? You rotate my tires every 3,000 miles? If you're going to go buy a expensive set of winter tires, seriously, like they claim like 2,000 miles, those need to be rotated. And if you look at Michigan, we have our snow and stuff we drive around, but how many times are we up and down 131 and 96 when the roads are dry? That just kills them.
Yeah,
and
well, and that's the thing. The winter tires are softer. They're
like bubble gum.
Exactly. Yeah, and so when you run those longer, they just eat up, or they get eaten so much more than a all-season tire.
If you're a Yoop or a Russian, you can get away with them when there's snow on the road. 6 months out. No, seriously, you can. But in West Michigan, it's such a small little. You know what? If you've got like a old Lincoln Town Car or an old Cadillac DeVille that's rear-wheel drive with a big engine and stuff, good call. Put them on there and they will serve you well. Or if you're driving a Checker Marathon. But if you've got like an SUV or front-wheel drive vehicle or an all-wheel drive vehicle,
give me a break.
Your money. Send me a Christmas present. Your money be
seriously. Yeah. It's just you got to learn how to drive. Like it aggravates me so much when I see these. I've got a 350. Big monster truck and I gotta put my snow tires on. I'm like, really? I can almost guarantee you I can get to the same place as you say you're going to your deer camp, or I'm going off-roading, it's a seasonal road or whatever. Like, if you know what you're doing, you can get at it and do it. It just irks me so bad to see these.
There's some very, very popular comedian that said you can't fix stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, well, and for those who I'm just going to say for the record, for those of you who feel otherwise, you can send your cards and letters in care of Robert's Automotive.
And hey, I will gladly debate you all day because
or give you a driving lesson. Or a driving lesson, one of the one of the two, and just for the record,
what the biggest issue is, Phil, is these people who think that way that have let's say it's either a Lincoln Navigator or it's a Cadillac Escalade Extended.
Yep.
The thing weighs 7,000 pounds. They go out and they put like Blizzaks on that thing with some custom rims for the winter, and they're the ones that pass you on M6 where it's always icy because it runs east and west, just like the winds off Lake Michigan do. And they drive by you when you're doing 48 at like 70 miles an hour. And then not 2-3 miles later, you get the joy of clapping at them and honking your horn when they're rolled over in the middle of the median. Because they think that it's M6 and they can just drive 90. And it is. It's getting to the point where people are just stupid.
Yeah.
Well, and they're
driving the snow.
They're the same people that you'll see, and when we get actual snow, they only clear off their driver's side window.
Yep.
And they just are fired up and go, I've got Blizzaks, I can go anywhere and do this, and no matter
they still can't stop.
Exactly. 4-wheel drive doesn't make you stop any better. I don't care what tires you got. You're not going to go stopping on ice. And it is always the same people. And like, they'll spend all this money on the fancy tires, but the wiper blades are gone. The rear window you can't even see out of because, or if it's an SUV, that rear wiper that's gone. We're never putting the rear defroster on. And they will hose down the washer fluid to try to knock the snow off, and so then the wiper transmission's blown out, and it's just like Al said, and the comedian, you can't fix stupid, and it's just you're going to spend all that money and maybe want to get some new wiper blades and clean your car off. No, that's fine. I got to get going, and away they go. So,
all right.
Anyways.
That's our opinion. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great Christmas and a happy New Year.
And just for the record, we did a show on snow tires about 4 episodes ago.
Yes,
but I had a feeling Puhek wanted to say something again, and boy,
yes, he has
boy, did he ever. And any final words of wisdom from you guys before we say Merry Christmas and off into the sunset?
Just have a good one, and we'll catch up in January. Next year's going to be awesome. There's a lot
drive
of cool
safe.
stories out there.
Yeah, and I just want to say, for the obvious, this is, in spite of what I said at the beginning in the podcast, this is episode 88. It's been quite a ride. We are closing in on 10,000 downloads, and who'd have thunk it? So we want to thank you. We want to ask you to continue to share this with a friend, and we'll keep growing the Michigan's Auto Talk podcast family. We've got big things planned in 2023, and as Al says and John says, send us your ideas. If there's an episode we haven't done, somebody you think we ought to talk to, and it's Michigan-based, we hope. We love that. We would love to hear from you. We don't have all the right ideas, so send us those stories. Or maybe you know somebody's got a really cool car collection, whether, it's Traverse City or, he's somewhere in, Ottawa County. It doesn't matter. Just let us know. We love hearing from them. And
just for a little tickler,
yeah,
you know that at the turn of the century, and like from 1888 to 1902, there were like 5 times more motorcycle manufacturers in America than there were automobile manufacturers.
I believe it.
But there were a few cars that were manufactured right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And there's some curators at the Grand Rapids Public Museum, and they've got some of those cars down there, and they've got some knowledge. So we've got future stuff coming on. I mean, if we're really Michigan's Auto Talk podcast, there's some Michigan cars. There's people don't even know that there were cars built in Grand Rapids, let alone motorcycles.
Yeah. We'll work on that. All right. That's going to put the wraps on this episode, number 88. Until next time, for Michigan's Auto Talk podcast, I'm producer Phil Tower.
I'm Al Schwinkendorf.
I'm John Puhek. Thanks for listening.